Hi everybody, Gisele Grenier here from artplace.ca. So, another background. What are we going to do today? Well, what I'm going to do is create a background using some really intense colors, deoxazine purple, and alizarin crimson. And this particular technique, I am going to do a whole bunch of different color schemes in individual videos because some people have a hard time visualizing what I'm talking about. And you do need a little bit of color theory experience to do what I'm going to be doing. We always know the first thing I do is prime my pages. Now, I'm using the Permalba white gesso. And I like this because it's ground marble with pure titanium white pigment. Creates a lot of texture and makes your pages very strong. I'm just using multimedia paper here. You can use a regular canvas, okay, a canvas board, regular canvas. If you're going to use a regular canvas for this technique, you'd probably be better off with, let's say, primed Masonite or a canvas board because we actually are going to scrape the paint and you don't want to cut in. You don't want to cut the canvas. Okay, so a stretched canvas is probably not going to be the best effect for the scraping. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside and bring a page that I've already done. Gessoed pages I usually leave to dry naturally. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with basically a lighter value of color, which means something that's lighter. Now, when we talk about value, I usually talk about adding black or white to adjust the value. Value is lightness or darkness of color, but because we're not using any white, purple is probably the darkest on the color wheel, the darkest hue, the darkest color. Alizarin crimson is pretty close, but when we scrape, because it's transparent, it will naturally be a little bit lighter. Now I'm using an old, this is just a sample card. It was in 2 pieces of siding, house siding, and when we're looking at siding, I got a sample card and I'm using that, but you can use a old credit card or hotel key card. So what I want to do is I want to just put a strip of color, and I'm using Prima acrylics. So strip of color, and we're going to scrape that. What we're doing is we're staining the paper. We just want a very, very thin, micro thin layer. If I was doing this with oils, whether I'm using the W oils or the Permalba oils, I would put the paint on and just use a cheesecloth to distribute, to stain the canvas. Or if I was doing this, let's say with a brush, just and thin it down with, let's say, if I'm using the Permalba oils, I would just thin it down with odorless turpentine substitute. Odorless turpenoid is what I would use. If I'm using the W oils, I would actually like to use the fast dry medium because that way it's dry, because this has to be dry. So you can do this with oils, it just takes longer. I'm not going to cover everything. Leave some broken pieces there. Okay, this leftover stuff, I'm going to reach over and just kind of spread it out on my... I've got a journal that I'm flipping over to get rid of excess paint. Okay, now I'm going to just quickly dry this. And you can see that as per the color of the tube, okay, it does get lighter as we're doing this scraping because it is transparent. If you were to do this with an opaque pigment, you'd have to probably find something that's is a lighter value. So I could have taken, if let's pretend the alizarin crimson was opaque, I would just add white to it. Make sure this is 100% dry because we want to make sure that this paint doesn't get removed. But if it does, who cares? I'm going to do my splatter technique. I actually love this. I'm wiping down the paper to cool it off. I do not want to apply paint to a warm page. The paint will dry too fast. Acrylic paint dries from evaporation as the water evaporates. So the minute it goes onto something hot, it dries fairly quickly. Timing is key here. You need a water bottle. Okay, I'm going to get my paint scraper here. Now I'm going to go the other way. You don't need a lot of deoxazine purple. I'm going to go as close to the edge as possible. And you have to make sure that the paint does not dry. And when working on with video lights here, it's pretty fast. If need be, you can add some retarder to your paint, which will extend the drying time. Keep it rough. Okay, now right away, let me turn that over. Let me just, okay. I'm going to take my water bottle and I'm just going to cup my hand, and when I do this, spray, 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 it puddles up in my hand, and as I open my fingers a little bit, it creates some splotches. Then I can just mist. There we go. You want to basically leave this for about 15 seconds. I'm going to cap my paint. I have a beautiful technique that I do this with a Spectre Fix and rubbing alcohol. Spectre Fix is better though. I'll do that in another video. What's happening now is the water is on top of the wet acrylic. We're going to put paper towels on top of it. Paper towels are just going to soak everything up. You got to do this fast though. You'll know it's working when what comes through is the paint and not the water, just the water. If it's just looking wet without any paint coming through, then you waited too long. There we go. And I'm just going to flip the paper towel over like this, and it can go right like that. These pages are perfect size because the paper towel almost covers the whole thing. I think the camera's having a hard time focusing because I keep moving. Wow, look at that. How cool is that? Now, what you can do is, if you want, you can come in here with your paper towel and just go over some of the areas to further remove some paint. Okay, and where it's removed, if I go back over an area that's pink, it will actually darken it a little bit because I'm putting deoxazine purple back into it. So this, it depends if your underlying color is too intense. Okay, so if I just roll my paper towel over, and I kind of like these white pieces showing. So there you go. Now, how does this speak to me? Probably something really, really abstract. So I'm going to let this dry, put it aside, and there's another background that you can put on a canvas board or in your journal pages.